To see more of QuantumEagle1's Zorro cosplays, check out his Facebook page in the description. Also there will be a link to Zorro's Lair Discord, where you can catch updates on future Cast of Zorro episodes. And hello everyone! We are live at the Cast of Zorro. My name is Jack Clock, and these fine fellas are...
I'm Worm, and this...
is Peyton.
Well, call me by my name. Marsden. Please.
Okay, Marsden.
Yeah, well, if that wasn't on the nose enough for you.
Yeah.
Of course,
all right.
As always, we have a little bit of a guest appearance. Jack?
Yeah, hey, let me introduce him, my man. Alright, introducing QuantumEagle1, a decently known Zorro cosplayer who has made quite a name for himself on our Zorro Discord as of recently. His cosplays are of insane quality, and more people are starting to realize how absolutely crazy this guy's outfits are. You want to introduce yourself, my man?
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor being here. Thank you all for your time. So I'm QuantumEagle1, and I go all out for cosplay, especially Zorro cosplay. Zorro has been a big influence in my life, especially growing up. I am Hispanic, so I grew up in a Hispanic community, and there's not that many Hispanic heroes out there. Zorro's a big one. So watching Zorro and growing up with him, it just influenced me in a great positive way, good positive male role model, and so growing up and finally having the means to actually start emulating my hero, now I get to put things together and start doing that. So this is kind of what I do.
Awesome. I have a question for you to start. How much, in terms of like the work of making or even just finding garments designed for these cosplays, how much work goes into that, and what's the process like?
So you first start with an interest, whatever character is very relatable to you. I started out with the Banderas Zorro. He was the most relatable to me, just because, just a little bit of disclosure. I used to serve as a volunteer firefighter, and I'll be spending time with my family, my kids, my wife, and I have a little beeper, and whenever that beeper goes off, everything stops. I drop everything, head over to the fire station, and go help somebody. And so the Bandera Zorro, especially in the Legend of Zorro, the sequel, he has a wife, he has a kid, he has a family. And it was very relatable to me because, he had to balance his family life and service to the community. And it was a major undertaking. You got the duality of being a father and settling down with a family, and also still having the hero aspect, serving an entire pueblo, without compromising his family's safety. Eventually, his son and wife get caught up into it, and they ultimately end up fighting together as a family. And the best line for me that comes from that movie is when Banderas as Zorro says, "My family is my life." Yeah. And that's very relatable to me. Balancing my family life with my work, with my recreation, and I also volunteer in this community, so I live it. I don't just cosplay, but I actually try to find ways to serve my community in costume. So my wife and I, we perform public exhibitions of the historical Spanish fencing system called La Verdadera Destreza, and we mostly put on educational fencing demonstrations to help with cultural awareness. And also highlight celebrations like Hispanic Heritage Month. And I do all these in public. I do it all in Zorro cosplay.
Oh my!
And so
sorry. Keep going. I was about to say, oh my god, you're a legend, dude.
So I do have history. I have studied historical Spanish fencing since 2011. I got certified as a safety marshal for the historical fencing sport for another nonprofit that I compete with. I competed internationally in Okinawa and in South Korea, and so I take what I have there and I pair it up with Zorro, and then I use it as an outreach to my community, just educate people, but also with a little bit of fun. So that was my interest. Banderas was the most relatable to me. So you start off with your interest. Which character is most relatable with you? And after that, I sit there and I watch those movies frame by frame, and I pause and I rewind, and I pause and I rewind, and I fast forward and I rewind and I pause. And if I'm on my phone or tablet, I zoom in after I pause it, and I try to look at all the details of the costume. And some of them are kind of hard, because some of them may not be very high resolution.
Yeah, especially the older ones.
Or even if it is high resolution, right, sometimes you're not going to see it. Like sometimes what the back of the shirt looks like under the cape. How it only will show like maybe for a few frames in an entire movie.
Or how the boots look.
Oh, exactly. And some people may not know this, but the back of Bandera's cape, there's a design on it. And there's a design on top, on the upper back and shoulders, and it goes all the way down the side. But there's also a design, kind of a triangle coming up from the center bottom. And a lot of people don't know that. And so
I think I remember some of the things on the cape, but I only remember seeing them in Legend. Were they in Mask too?
No, they were not. And see, that's the difference. Also in Legend, his gloves, at the tip of his gloves on the end, he also has a decoration there too, which he doesn't have in the Mask of Zorro. And these are only things that you can really pick out if you're pausing it and trying to watch everything. Like, oh, he just moved and I just saw a certain color come off his costume. Let me pause that, rewind it, see what that was. So once you get an interest, you go back and you study your hero. You study what he wears. And so I have multiple Zorro suits. I have one that, like the Mask of Zorro, and I have one for the Legend. My favorite is the Legend is because it's a little bit more ornate. But I also have, because of what I do and the kind of exhibitions that I do in public, I have my hero suit, which is 100% as much as I can get it movie accurate. But then I also have my stunt suit. And this is the suit that if I'm doing a non-profit, event and I'm volunteering there and I'm out in the dust and all that stuff, I can just wear that and I don't have to worry about months and months and months of work getting dusty and tore out. So you first start off with your interests, you study their costumes, and then you find out, okay, what can I buy? I mean, try to make it easy on yourself, right? Because you can't make everything. I can't make everything.
Yeah, totally.
I've had to have some things actually custom made to me. And I'm very fortunate because I'm in the historical fencing community, where I have a lot of contacts that, help make stuff, from the past. And they're very accurate. So I'm very fortunate to have some contacts that if I can't do it, I can contact and then, have a custom fit made something for me. But usually those are things like boots and gloves and of course a hat. I get the hat custom made, and then I tear off whatever a hat banding comes with, and I make my own. So after I spend hours studying the costume, at least I go shopping online and seeing what elements I can find that are very accurate to what I'm seeing. You're not going to find most of the time 100% replicas unless you're buying them from the movie auctions, So you've got to look for what's close. So that could be many hours attached to that, just shopping online, seeing what you can find that's accurate. And then that's when it really doubles down. You found everything that you can find that you can buy or have custom made. And of course, working in a job to afford things that are that custom made. Not to count for those. But after you do that, then you sit down and say, okay, what am I missing? Oh, I'm missing this cape. I'm missing this design on the cape. I'm missing the hat trim. The hat trim on the Banderas hat. I think I spent a couple months trying to see if anybody does anything close, and they didn't. And so cosplay is basically, hey, you do it yourself. If you can't find it, try it. And it took me, that hat trim took me 3 months for my first hat trim.
3 months?
And that's for the 3 months.
Oh my
yes.
God, you are so dedicated. That is awesome.
And I learned how to do it easier because I also have 2 more versions of that hat. Like I said, I have a stunt version and a hero version. But it took me 3 months to sit there and eyeball everything and try to find the materials close to the color and then trying out different things. And my first one, I thought, man, this was really cool. I got it. And then I looked at it, I put it away, and I looked at it a month later. I'm like, that looks nothing like it. What was I thinking? And I let me try again. So I'm kind of obsessive over that. I'm kind of a perfectionist. So I tried it again. This time I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it closer. And so I do multiple takes, if you will, of certain items because I find out how to do them, and then I find out how to do them better. I'm able to see my mistakes after a while, and I'm able to say, you know what, this would look better if I just add this. So just the hat trim alone took me 3 months. The cape, especially the Banderas cape, I could not do by myself. A lot of credit here goes to my wife. She actually was the one who taught me how to sew, and in a sense is still teaching me how to sew. And we paired up. She does the exhibitions with me, the fencing exhibitions, so she dresses up as a señorita and helps me to, do the fencing whenever I do public displays. But we get together. She teaches me how to sew. We take measurements. She helps me with measurements. How long do we want the cape? How far does it go around the shoulder? I mean, these are things you don't really think about. How far does that cape really fall on Banderas' shoulder?
Work the same way that it does in the original. The costume design is obviously like a big part. I actually did a lot of costume design in like the theater world when I was in high school, but honestly, like what you're talking about is more than enough for my like palette. I could maybe do like half of what you do, and that's with a lot of time, dedication, and focus, which I do not possess.
Oh yeah, I think for my Bandera suit, it took me a good.
But the results are
year
well worth it.
to finish.
Oh, it is.
Oh
like,
yes. Oh yes.
If you see on the cover of this podcast, we're gonna be using one of his outfits for him on the cover for this podcast episode. These outfits are so amazing. Like, there's a lot of really good cosplayers on this server, but like
This is unbelievable.
But you blow all of us out of the water.
It's a level of professionalism that when you take something like cosplay, taking a fictional character, and attempting to embody that, in and of itself is, in a way, it's similar to acting, but it's very much its own thing. And at a core concept, it's a costume, the same way people could celebrate Halloween. But taking something that at its core is kind of a silly thing to do, but taking it very deliberately, very seriously, and very professionally,
Yes.
It's magical.
Yeah, I agree.
It's its own thing.
And not to mention, he does it with multiple versions of the character. Like, he's done it with old and new Zorros alike, and like a lot of the people who I've seen who've cosplayed Zorro, they make their own, original designs, which are awesome. They're great, and I love all of them. But there's something special to be said about someone who is able to recreate the movie's outfits down to a T. Like, it's honestly, it's like, it's so good that it's kind of scary.
And it's a good thing we're going to be talking a lot about outfits today. Because in terms of introductions, and we've had some pretty great people on this podcast, but we haven't even gotten into the news section yet. We haven't even gotten into current events.
Oh yeah, that's right. And today especially, we got hit with a double whammy of great Zorro news. I'll start with the most hype one first to get everyone excited. So, back in 2020, there was announcements that this group called Sequoia Studios, which they're essentially a newer TV studio that was made for this, is now making a Zorro show, and it was being helmed by John Gertz, the president of Zorro Productions Inc. himself. I was pretty excited for this at first, but then after the first bit of information, it just kind of went dark.
That one, didn't they stop production on it?
No, you're thinking of Zorro Reborn. This was just announced, and then it kind of just disappeared for a while, and nothing really came of it until today. A few hours before we did this episode, it was announced that they found leads for their they found actors for their two lead characters, Don Diego and Lolita. Diego will be played by Miguel Bernadao, and Lolita will be played by Renata Notti. And they look pretty good for the role. I think they look fantastic. And apparently it's already filming in Spain, which a lot of good Zorros have been filmed in Spain. So this is encouraging information, really. And I think that with this and all of the other projects that are being made, the TV shows, the movie, all the other projects that are coming out, that even if one of these doesn't work, then at least one will come out, and at least we'll see Zorro come back in some way, and this podcast will definitely have a lot more to talk about, and I'll be so excited. What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, I think that obviously more productions overall are good, but I do want to stress that, like, the show starting its production and them finding leads, I feel like people are going to be... I don't want people to get, like, too hyped up immediately over something like this.
Yeah, because it basically just means that they're still working on it.
Yeah, interest and intrigue need to be built properly for it to end up being a good final production. However, it's like you never want to rush things.
Oh, true.
And especially in today's modern film world, a lot of things end up rushed. You can tell the difference between your modern, like... even if it's an action movie, even if it's a fencing movie, you can tell that sometimes things just are, even if they're well acted, which that's not guaranteed, sometimes they're not well directed. And if they're well directed, sometimes they're not well edited, and things take time. And then you compare that to classics, you compare it to some of the best Zorro fight scenes. Hell, you could compare it to, like, Jackie Chan movies, where they do takes over and over until it's right. Perfect. And they don't mind wasting the time, because they're not wasting the money, and they're not wasting the effort.
True. And also, I'd like to point out that even though they've announced the leads and stuff, doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to be green to go. For example, that Zorro Reborn, it was a movie or show, I don't even know anymore. It was so messy to figure out all this stuff back in the day. They announced, Gael Garcia was going to be playing Zorro, and, everyone's like, it's a good choice, but nothing came of it. Like, this project was eventually
just dark.
Yeah, it just went dark.
I've been on a lot of projects that ended up being dark.
Yeah.
You can tell. But we will be getting a lot of Zorro, preferably maybe, I don't know, across the Mediterranean, maybe in l'Italia.
Well, speaking of Italia, another piece of great news. So I didn't know about this until recently. Probably it's because I live in the U.S. But in Italy, there was a series of events called The Gathering of the Zorro.
What?
Yeah, I'm not making that up. There's an event called Gathering of the Zorro where people would show up at this one place en masse and just dress up as Zorro and just hang out and talk and march and play music and stuff.
This is what I call a Zorro!
It's basically that scene from Gayblade.
It is that scene from Gayblade. But in all seriousness, you have to remember that Italy does have, like, more so than the United States and a lot of countries, it does have a big following for Zorro. A lot of the movies that you yourself have translated and
are translating.
Or are continue to translate are originally from Italian. Wasn't the 1975 originally in Italian?
Partially, yes. It was a multinational cooperative event.
With France and
Spain.
Italy.
And Italy and Spain. I'm not even joking. All three of them.
Wait, wasn't there a movie where France?
It did, yes, but it did have Spanish like in the original.
Okay,
and
that
that
makes
wasn't
sense.
because it was a Latin American production. That's because it was Spain as well. It was filmed in. Almost forgot that part.
Oh my god. Sorry. Yeah, well, most of the actors in the 1975 film are French, including Elaine Delon. And
Mm.
it's essentially it's an international film, but we're not talking about 1975 today. That's for a later episode. But
Yeah.
this gathering of the Zorros is being helmed by a man named Filippo Martinez, who held two similar events in 1984 and 2004. And so essentially, these were kind of sparse events and stuff like that, and they were mostly just held for fun. But with the recent Russian invasion of Ukraine, and with them basically spray painting Z's all over everything, a lot of Zorro fans and people in general have been very angry that the symbol of justice and freedom and democracy is being co-opted by an authoritarian right-wing dictator. And a lot of people are doing this not just for fun, but also to protest. And I just say all power to them. And I hope that when it comes on May 28th, that some people grab some footage.
Honestly, I hope that we don't have to cover this in like the next episode, and that this starts to die down and they pick a different pop icon, like I don't know, maybe some Clint Eastwood character they might find fascinating.
No, Elvis.
I don't. Yeah, I don't particularly care. The problem is like how Zorro kind of stands for all the
Yeah.
opposite of what they stand for. So it's not exactly them upending a fucking, you know, military dictatorship. They aren't. That's the whole reason why this is happening in the first place. But besides that, hopefully this comes to pass and Zorro isn't seen as like a cancelable character because he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
freaking
Yeah,
misused on Twitter and somebody
Yeah.
spray painted it in like in an outhouse or something.
Yeah, and like I've seen people online are like, "Oh, we gotta cancel Zorro now because Z," and I'm like, "No, stop with the fear mongering. People are gonna let that go." Like, and I do think though that this gathering of the Zorros is still important in that it is a sign of protest against the Russian regime as well as their usage of the mark of Zorro, unintentionally as it may be. And I just say, just all power to them. Keep going at it. I sound so silly there, but
Well,
yeah.
I would actually like Peyton to introduce the starting topic of today. Now that we're out of the news,
Which one?
how about we start with talking about your favorite Zorro theme?
Oh God. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure.
It's okay. Like any ones that you particularly enjoy without
There's
being
obviously
like a favorite.
there's a couple of choices like "Here's to Being Free"
Yeah.
or
Zorro is back.
"Zorro
Yeah.
Rides Again."
Zorro words again.
I was
We
thinking of them.
meme the shit out of that.
Oh yeah. Even outside of this server.
Even outside of this server, we meme the shit out of it.
It is a fun one.
Well,
And consider
while you're thinking, let's ask Eagle.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you have a
since
favorite
he's
Zorro theme? Doesn't have to be like a theme
Um,
song. It could be any piece of music from Zorro Media. But
Yeah.
Sure. I actually have three. But my most favorite, though, is the musical score from The Mask of Zorro, the instrumentals and everything like that. It's got great dynamics. It's got great emotion behind it. It adds to a lot of the action, a lot of the drama in the movie. Music can add so much to something. So the musical score for me from Mask of
Absolutely.
Zorro is a favorite.
Before you keep going, I do want to talk a little bit about that because
Yeah.
I actually wrote a piece of music myself called "Switch the Channel." Don't need to go into details. All you need to know about it is in the one of the sections, which was supposed to be it was just called The Drama, and it was like not a sitcom, it was more like a rom-com. It had some romantic things, it had a little bit of like fighting in it, but I had that melody so clear in my head when I was writing like the most dramatic part of it, the bum ba da bum ba da dum ba da ba ba da da dun da bum ba da 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 da. Then the horns swell in from below.
And the Japanese flute.
Now that might easily become my favorite now.
Oh yeah, that I will admit the Japanese flute and like the horns and stuff definitely give the Mask of Zorro a very unique sound compared to other Zorro stories or even other like action movies of the time. Hell, I've even heard Big Jack Films, a YouTuber who's a big Zorro fan, call the Japanese flute the Zorro flute because of its usage in the Mask of Zorro.
I believe it's also used in Star Wars as well, for the Queen Amidala when she comes on screen, and the Phantom Menace. I believe they use the same technique with the flute. But you can do so much with the instrumentals there. While I'm talking, my second one is the New World Zorro, and I like that one because of the electric guitar in it. And I've also heard some really great guitar covers, played. There's something about electric guitar.
You don't see Zorro with the electric.
Give it a Spanish. No, you give it a Spanish little, flair to it.
I was gonna say how many times have you ever seen Zorro paired up with the electric guitar? Am I right?
Right. And my last one would be from the telenovela La Espada y la Rosa. So it's the Spanish novela, and it's a song that's kind of got this Spanish gypsy
I know that
flamenco.
one. It's
and it's sung by Beyonce and
it's
Alejandro
called
Fernandez.
Amor Gitano, right?
Yes, Amor Gitano.
Yeah,
I think it's Gypsy Love is what it translates to.
But I've been dying to see that show in English subtitles or something. I've been wanting to collaborate with someone who knows Spanish to help subtitle the show, since there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in Telemundo to try and translate it. And I think that it'll really help people, expose people to that really good theme song, because I listen to it a lot. It's a really good one.
Sure. Well, if you ever need any help, make sure you can contact me. I'll be happy to help out. I've watched that. I cosplay his suit as well, and it's a little different because it's a novella, but it's actually pretty good, and the Hispanic community is considered one of the top novellas.
Which makes
cosplaying his suit
even more of a crime because I get to shared it to everyone else.
Right, I know. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. There's a lot of humor. I mean, there's a lot of the soap opera drama, which I'm not that into. But everything else makes up for it.
Sorry. I was just gonna say I can wade through all that just to see Zorro do Zorro stuff.
I'll be honest. I fast forward a couple places, but it's very fun, and I enjoy cosplaying him because I get to grow out my mustache and soul patch for that one.
Cosplay.
Because some Zorros, their mustaches are all different too. Some of them don't. Actually, I have a question for you. What do you guys think? Zorro with a mustache or without a mustache? What's your opinion?
Worm, what's your opinion?
And it just feels more iconic.
I'm gonna go against the grain here a little and say no mustache. I think mustaches are better for Zorro villains than for Zorro.
Nice. Hey, thanks for chiming in. Cause I always ask that of people with all the different Zorros that I cosplay, because there's Zorros with mustaches, there's Zorros with no mustaches, and there's Zorros with mustache and a soul patch. So I'm like, which one everybody prefer? And the majority of people tell me Mustache, yeah,
Yeah,
mustache.
yeah. Oh, get me wrong. I get it. I'm in the minority opinion, which is fine. Um, yeah, mustaches have been a part of the character for a while. Um, all different kinds. Usually like the pencil mustache, but sometimes you'll see something bigger. Sometimes you'll even see like a fake mustache, like in the silent film that he peels off. And I don't know. I do like when they do that though. That's fun. Or in the comics when Don Diego wears the fake mustache and Zorro
Or
has
in
none.
Mask of Zorro, where
Yeah, I was
he
just gonna
has
say
a
Oh,
that.
fake mustache.
Yeah,
oh yeah, he does something
yeah.
similar.
He
Yeah,
has
I
a real
remember.
mustache, but he then shaves it off to
Yeah.
put it back on so he can, I don't know, be
Hmm.
better with his deception.
Yeah,
I'm not quite
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It throws off Montero. Excuse me. It throws off Montero and the others. They're like, whoa, this can't be Alejandro. He has a mustache. But I mean, I don't know. It's like Clark Kent's glasses, I guess. Um, yeah, like it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about Zorro mustaches.
Thank you for answering the question. I just wanted to know. I have
Yeah.
no preference. I can do either. Or I mean, doing the mustache is a little bit more tedious because I got to grow it out. I got to shape it, and then I got to go walk around outside of the costume with a pencil
Yeah.
mustache in this time period, and that looks kind of funny. But once I don the suit, it's better. But it's a little bit more tedious. So I guess I would side with no mustache, but I really have no preference. But thank you
Oh, of
guys for
course.
answering that
we
question.
got to get back on topic,
Yeah,
though.
I'm gonna.
One,
If you guys
Yep,
don't mind,
sorry
I'm
about
gonna
that.
go into my favorite.
yeah, I was about to ask.
I'm gonna say, with a heavy heart, knowing that there's a lot of good composers who have worked on Zorro, 1937 Zorro Rides Again. And not just for the catchy song, which is very, very catchy. I will say that. But what I love most about it is, you're talking about like, oh, the Zorro flute and these particular things that you can relate to Zorro. That like muted horn, I almost distinctively relate to Zorro. And the entire orchestra they used for that has its own creative like sound palette. Um, it's hard to explain, but it's like you hear these particular instruments, and there's something that's so characteristic about them. Not only it's very old, most of this is recorded on record, so you still have that grainy, scratchy feel to it, but the actual texture of the brass that's so smooth, soft, subtle, and then it rises to this completely bright tone, and that contrast is pretty exclusive to this like old style of writing music, and I adore it. One of our favorite games, me and Peyton, is Sea of Thieves. And one of the reasons why I love it is because it's such distinct sound palette. Where it's got, a kind of scratchy concertina accordion, a hurdy-gurdy, a banjo. It's pretty, like, rudimentary in terms of what it uses, even for the orchestral pieces. But everything is fine-tuned so that it has its own... You can hear a song from it and know, oh, that is from that, because I hear these particular instruments, and I hear the particular theme maybe being transposed somewhere in the melody or harmony. And that, to me, that like soundscape is worth more than any kind of novelty of me saying like, oh, I really find Here's to Being Free really funny. But I just adore the soundtrack of 1937. So
Yeah, understandable. Especially that adorable little jingle that James Vega occasionally sings as he rides on what was Firebrand? And oh no, it's El Rey. Sorry, Firebrand comes later. And he just it outshines the movie's own theme song. Like that's how just like how wholesome and like for lack of a better word that it is. It really encapsulates that old school but in a good way feel. I feel like Sea of Thieves actually has something like that. Very old school but in a good way. And last but not least, me. I've been thinking about this for a bit. And I'd say my favorite one. I know it's I know that it's kind of a bandwagon to jump on this particular Zorro in terms of saying that it's the best at something, but I think my favorite theme song for Zorro is the Walt Disney Zorro. It is not only the one that a lot of people automatically assume with Zorro, like a lot of people who aren't as attached to all of the franchises we are.
But that one's the sea that sends for Zorro.
Out of the night, when the full moon is bright,
Yeah, okay,
comes
yeah,
the
I
horseman
remember it,
known
yep.
as Zorro, and it's so atmospheric and so it. The first time I listened to it, it sent a chill up my spine. Like, it is such a well designed theme that really puts you in the mood to see this, this dark avenger with a sword coming down to fight the cruel despots of California. And, like, it really sells Zorro to you. There's not an air of campiness in the theme song that, like something like how people kind of roll their eyes at the Adam West Batman show because, the main theme song's campy or whatever. But, like, the Disney Zorro, I don't think that people could do that because it is such a, like, it's like a tune that has aged perfectly into modern day. It is something that's also had multiple different versions over the decades or so, and all of them have a unique sound to them. Like the actor behind Sergeant Garcia, Henry Calvin, sang it once, and his singing voice is amazing, by the way. The Chordettes did it; they were a popular singing group. There were some other folks that did it. I've seen a few covers on YouTube. All of them are really great, especially with the extended edition with, like, some banger lyrics in them. And I think that's really all I can say about the theme song so far, but, like, that's why it's my favorite. I think that it really encapsulates Zorro. And I think now that we've all shared our opinions,
Well, on another note, I think my favorite is Zorro Generation Z's opening.
Ooh,
that one's
you've made
not
up
bad.
your mind, huh?
Yeah, I think it
like that
works
too.
surprisingly.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Like, it brings up the campiness factor, but it actually works in its favor.
Oh, true. That show in general is just like
It's amazing.
how to purposefully execute good camp. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
so good.
yeah, I think the show's pretty underrated, and I think a lot of people, even like me when I was younger, wrote it off as like bad because it looks kind of odd at first to see Zorro with a lightsaber and a kind of shoddy like animation, but once you start watching it and you see the jokes and the slapstick and stuff, it definitely becomes really fun to watch. But
And it's so unique in its own perception of, like,
Yeah.
it's still Zorro, but it's like Zorro's never been like this before. And
Yeah.
people who have watched Zorro will be like, "Oh, this isn't really like Zorro. It's a completely different, like, feel to the original story. It's definitely a lot lighthearted." But it's a nice cartoon.
yeah,
And I think it's a good indication of that. If I were to take
True.
someone else's opinion, I would say, like, in my second place is Mask of Zorro. I do agree with you there. The soundtrack in Mask of Zorro is so good. And all the themes that... The best part about it is, like, it doesn't treat the audience like, oh, here are the like, musically, here are the themes you have to remember. No, it gives you the theme at the end, the big song, moon so bright, night so fine, and it gives you that whole number. I love that number. First
It
of
is a
all,
good song.
but if you go back and watch the movie, you'll see that theme is sprinkled in everywhere, and you didn't notice the first time because you didn't know it was happening.
Well, I mean,
But
I did. But...
we'll have a lot to talk
Yeah,
about
very
the
subtle
Mask
to
of
the
Zorro.
instruments.
Yep.
It is.
Yeah. Speaking of the Mask of Zorro, by the way,
It's a modern one. It's a great one. We
Yep.
gotta talk about it at some
yeah,
point.
we got to talk about Mask of Zorro as our next topic. Now, I purposely chose this movie because our friend Quantum Eagle, it's his favorite Zorro. So I think I want him to talk about it first, since he'd probably love to talk about it. What would you want to say
Well, thank you.
to start this topic?
Thank you. First and foremost, that Zorro, when it first came out, I was very excited because the first Zorro I was actually exposed to was the Duncan Regeer Zorro. And that was a TV show, and a lot of them were the TV shows. I wasn't exposed to all the serials and older movies till later. So when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh, what is this?" And the first thing that caught my attention was just the guitar strum. Again, I'm Hispanic. I love that Spanish music, and it starts off with that flamenco strum, and all of a sudden it's got my attention. What is that? And just with the beginning credits, you're like, "Whoa, what is this?" You got all the different sounds, the him walking with the spurs on, and the sound of him drawing the sword and making that Z. So right from the beginning, it just had my attention. So I was already hooked from the beginning, and so just watching Anthony Hopkins play Zorro, which I actually thought he was, the aging Diego. He showed a lot of vulnerability. I mean, he actually got beat by Montero. I mean, his house got burned down, and lost his wife, and he took his daughter, and he sent him to jail. So to see Zorro so vulnerable was something also relatable in hero characters. Something to show that a hero can bleed. It brings it down to everybody's level, regardless of who you are. Not everybody's Superman. This can be a little bit more realistic, and to see Diego at a vulnerable point, and then to come back from that and rise up from that. You talk about Zorro rise again, but it actually shows that Zorro is not just Diego. He's a symbol. He passes he passes it down to Alejandro, who has no relation to him. He's not rich. He's poor. He was a thief. He's not somebody of that elite class. So to show that here's somebody who was from the elite class to pass down the mantle to somebody who was at rock bottom shows that Zorro is in everybody. Zorro can be anybody. Zorro is not defined by a class. He's not defined by a status. He's not defined, by a certain look even, because he doesn't have the mustache. Anthony Hopkins did. Antonio Banderas had that elaborate trim on his hat, and Anthony Hopkins didn't. So it's I like it because it doesn't lock Zorro into a certain persona.
Yeah,
a certain personification. It
That's
shows
what I
it
was
could be
going to
anybody.
say, because I was thinking about this back in 2018 when Into the Spider-Verse came out, and the message behind that one is, anyone can be Spider-Man. But the problem with that is, you need spider powers and stuff like that in order to be Spider-Man. With
There's a
Zorro,
literal physical requirement.
yeah, but with Zorro,
Right. He's working out and
a
everything.
message that works way better. And I totally agree with you. I love that the next person to be Zorro is basically someone who, in circumstances, is the complete opposite to Diego, but still just as worthy to be Zorro as Diego. And don't get me wrong, there have been previous legacy characters of Zorro, but they've all been De La Vegas. But this shows that you don't have to be Diego. You don't have to be Diego's son or his grandson or his great-great-great-grandnephew from Zorro Rides Again. You can be anyone on the planet, and as long as you have a pointy stick, a mask, and a sense of justice, you can be Zorro. You have the ability to be Zorro, and you can see yourself in Zorro. And I think that was just so special. And I think that's one of the things that helped me love this character when I first saw it, when I was 10 years old, and I first saw this with my mom. And the character stood out to me so much as this character who had such a positive message and could really, stand up for everyone, both in universe and out of universe, and it felt so special to me. And like, I'm so happy to see I'm not the only one who knows about what this movie means, And that's why and it's why it makes me
No, no,
so
and
mad when, a new Zorro project comes out and it's announced that it's a different character being Zorro. And you see all these people are like, no, only Antonio Banderas can be Zorro. Only Guy Williams can be Zorro. Only this guy, that guy, this guy. No, they missed the point of Antonio Banderas as Zorro, is that anyone can be Zorro. Anyone can be this character. Like, with character,
Even
actor...
Hopkins.
Yeah,
Hopkins can be
even
Zorro.
Hopkins. Yeah, Hopkins could be Zorro too. He was Zorro, and he played a damn good one. And like even back in the 50s with Guy Williams, people said, "Oh, he'll never be as good as Tyrone Power or Fairbanks," but he proved himself. And Antonio Banderas, he was viewed as, oh, he's never gonna be like the other guys. No, he proved himself that he's Zorro. He can be Zorro like anyone else. And that's what I think these new projects are going to do. They're going to they're going to build upon what the Mask of Zorro started off with, and I think that's what's so special about it.
Not everyone.
yeah, and especially
can
with
be
Mr. Gertz
Zorro,
being on.
but a good Zorro can come from anywhere.
Anyway, Mr. Gertz, I heard him do an interview for the 100th year anniversary. And he said, and I quoted this, I remember, because this, as a cosplayer and with the community work that I do with nonprofits and, just being out there and doing, education and all that kind of stuff for free, he said something in that interview, and he said, and I quote, Mr. Gertz said, Zorro isn't every man. You have to put on a mask and a cape. That's the first ingredient of becoming Zorro. And the second one is that you have to be committed to doing good in a world that isn't always good.
Exactly, that is Zorro, down to its essence. You don't need the mustache, even though having a mustache helps. I know. You don't even need a sword. There's a lot of Zorros that don't even have a sword. There, you don't need a coterie of supervillains. You don't need a fair senorita to save. What you need is those three simple ingredients. And those are things that everyone has access to. A cape, a mask, and a belief in doing good for your fellow man. That's what makes Zorro so cool. And, during the beginning of this podcast, when you were talking about, as someone who is in the Latino community, as a young kid who didn't have a lot of role models like that to grow up with, it sounded very similar to me to another person who said something recently. Wilmer Valderrama, who is now going to play Zorro.
Yeah.
He said something very similar in an interview that I saw with Stephen Colbert. And I was thinking to myself, exactly. This is why we need Wilmer Valderrama to play Zorro. And that's why I think it's so important to show that anyone can be this character. If you grew up as a kid with this character and believed in everything that he, or soon to be she, taught you, you too can be Zorro. Anyone watching this, you could make your own little home movie, and have everyone in outfits and stuff, and fight each other with swords and stuff like that. You could make a good Zorro. At this point, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I just think that the message the movie has is so positive, and I'm very happy I'm on the same page with you, Quantum.
Awesome, yeah, and like I said, I'm living it. I'm actually going out there and doing stuff in costume with the hero that I can emulate from my childhood, and it's very sentimental to me. The passion, the interest, the relatability, it all ties into my life. And it gets to a real awesome realization that, man, Zorro's an MMA. I'm proof of it, but you are too, because you could, take something you're passionately interested in and share it with others and introduce people to this new fandom, or even reintroduce others to this fandom, which is why I've got a chance to do both as a cosplayer.
And while I'm definitely not as cool as you when it comes to doing it, I too have been, inspired by this character and stuff in order to, reach out to people, to show people how cool this franchise is, how many awesome lessons there are to learn, how many fun sword fights to watch, and just to generally inspire people. I've made Road to Zorro Reborn, which I plan to do another season of. I've made this podcast. I made the Discord server we're in right now. I've made all this stuff. And while it's definitely not as cool as basically being Zorro in the eyes of, hundreds of people and several crowds, is still something I feel like is helping in some way,
Well, this is you being your Zorro. This is you being you. This is every Zorro is different. I emulate the ones on the screen, but even I have differences, and even my suit's always not going to be 100%.
You look at the 1974 one.
Even when you emulate,
Jack is.
Oh boy.
we don't need to put any more shade on that. That thing is a palm tree with the amount of shade we've given it already.
Well, let's just hope that it's good, so the quote doesn't age poorly.
Let's talk about the fights. Let's talk about these fights.
The fights.
Oh
my god, I had notes on that,
we brought it up before when we were talking about best fights. Obviously, I think 1975 came up as the best in terms of like overall fights, because it just has a long fight at the end. But this has a lot of like spread out fights. They're all well paced. They're all very intriguing, one after another. You have obviously in the very beginning, where they're running away with Three-Fingered Jack, and then there's that scuffle. Then I believe you don't get like a real fight until Zorro is trying to steal the horse.
Yeah.
Which is a 1vx scenario,
also,
where Zorro's
Worm,
forced to be creative.
Also, Worm, you forgot the big opening fight at the beginning with Don Diego versus
obviously,
the 100 Men.
With the original Don Diego versus the 100 Men, you have the training, obviously, of the new Zorro. You have the fight against when he's trying to steal the map from the Capitan, Captain Love, and then I believe there's
a fight where there's a fight where he duels Elena. We'll get to that one later.
We will talk about it, but we really should leave it.
Yeah, I know. And then there's the final battle at El Dorado.
The big final battle.
Which is a really great climax to the film. I'm gonna say off the bat, I think I enjoyed every single fight in that movie with one notable exception. I don't think there was a single poorly made fight scene in any stretch of the movie. I think because from what I've seen of the behind the scenes films, they put so much effort into these. Like, Antonio Banderas was trained by a guy who goes all the way back to Errol Flynn in the 1930s. That's how dedicated they were to try and make something that harkens back to the old while still feeling fresh. And it really does. And I think that...
Are we going to get it out of the way first?
What do you want to get out of the way?
Are we going to get the Elena fight out of the way first?
Okay, yeah.
God.
Then we'll talk about the really good ones.
Yeah, okay, fine. Look, it's not a poorly choreographed fight.
It's a slow
acted
and drawn out fight from the very beginning of it. The very beginning of that fight, I feel like, is more than enough of a tease. I feel like you get to a point where it's like, they're both very slow. They're not really attacking each other, but the other can tell that the other is more skilled than they seem, and they're just letting it happen and be like, ooh. I'm intrigued.
Like,
What
I
is she
think-
gonna do, or what is he gonna do? But then they do the whole point where, I mean, on one hand, it's supposed to be like Elena. He's trying to get Elena to be like, "Damn, this rascal, this son of a bitch,
This rapscallion.
can't believe it." But like from a narrative perspective, Zorro's thinking a few steps ahead, and what he did. If you were to go from like, oh, the writers aren't just being horny, what he was attempting to do was the same thing that he did in the dance room earlier in the movie. Was he was trying to distract Montero and get his attention using his quote unquote daughter. Which he did. If you take it just in that lens and don't actually watch the fight scene, it is a well-made concept.
Yeah.
And if they leaned more into that and less into the stripping and the forced kissing, it would probably be a highly regarded fight scene. Actually,
Well, the thing is, from what I've seen with a lot of people I've talked to, it is pretty well regarded, which I don't get.
it
I
does
think-
seem pretty like she seems like a legitimate
Worm.
match.
Yeah, oh, definitely. But what I was gonna say was, I think the whole linchpin behind if you're gonna enjoy the fight is if you enjoy the romance in that movie or not. A lot of people who enjoyed the romance in the movie say that it's the best scene in the whole film. But like folks like me, who I didn't buy into their romance at all, it mostly just kind of felt like a slog, and it made me kind of sad because I don't. Excuse me. I don't want to view a Zorro romance as a slog, but that's what it felt like, and I was just like, oh well, and that just kind of sucked. But like, I get why a lot of people like the romance. A lot of people, seem pretty attracted to Catherine Zeta-Jones and Antonio Banderas. Personally, I'm not, but that's just a me thing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's well made, just like the rest of the movie, and I'm mostly just judging it based on personal opinion.
I'm basing it simply based on like story-wise content. It didn't need. First of all, it didn't need to happen to begin with.
True.
You already have more than enough time to realize that like not Don Diego, but
Alejandro
Murrieta is trying to not only have a successful courtship, but he's able to flick it off in an instant in order to get what he wants.
Yeah.
At any point, he like in the very beginning, he's very much trying to be friendly to her, and then in order to get closer to the Dons, he decides to take the opposite viewpoint. And as soon as it suits his purpose, when she goes off to dance with Captain Love, he comes over and he's just like, "Okay, Captain Love, get the hell out of here. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it."
I was just watching the intricacies
And I feel like
of modern life.
that whole point had less to do with Elena, and I feel like that was more just him trying to piss off Captain Love and then create a distraction at the end.
His reaction was pretty funny.
He's like, "I did piss off Captain Love, but the Dons are leaving the table without me. I need to make sure I don't do that."
You were trying. She was succeeding.
I feel like that was I feel like there was enough substance already before this fight scene that they just didn't need to have it. I feel like though nothing was really like nothing actually changed during that fight scene.
Yeah.
Nothing.
It already affirms what the movie had already been telling you. That Elena and Alejandro have feelings for each other. We already knew that from the scene in the chapel.
But at the same time, they also have their own things they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Like, Alejandro, he's doing his Zorro business, and Elena, she's kind of piecing together, her parentage and her history.
It also makes no sense for her to have been there in the first place, like from a story-wise perspective. If an attack is going down and there's a shit ton of gunfire, and then she's just chilling in the stables.
Okay, so what happens is he runs past after getting away from Montero and the others, and she kind of pops out from her room and she sees him and she's like, "Oh, damn." Um, and that's basically the excuse for that's the impetus for why they're starting to fight. Again, I don't even think the scene just needed to exist. I get it, the Zorro is sexier than the other
We need a
Zorros.
palate
I don't.
cleanser. We need a palate cleanser. I want to talk
Yeah.
about. I want to talk
Yeah.
about the group fight. I want to talk about his first trial as Zorro.
Oh, are you talking about the barracks fight where
The
he gets
barracks
Tornado?
fight. Yep.
Oh,
Where he
now
fights
that
Sergeant Garcia, where he fights the big guy. That guy is like
Yeah.
he was like a well-known celebrity at the time, wasn't
yeah, he was called the Mexican Andre the Giant from what I've been told. I might be wrong. And I don't know. But apparently he was famous, and it is kind of fitting since Zorro only a few years prior did actually have a run-in with the real Andre the Giant, so it's only fitting. And God, that fight in general is so fun. It also pays homage to the 1920 film where a group of soldiers, are screaming, "Get him!" and jump on top of him, and pile on him, and he just crawls out. But unlike
the pile scene is great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give like my least favorite and my favorite parts about that.
All right.
My least favorite part is I feel like one too many fight scenes in the movie ends up with Zorro like, I'm about to plan a counterattack, and everybody else is like, what's going on? Do we attack him? And then someone has to say like, get him or kill him or something along those lines to be like,
I think
oh yeah,
Montero
maybe
says it at
maybe
least
I
3
should.
times.
Montero says it like 3 times. And Garcia in that one scene in the
Says
start,
it
he
twice.
says, "Get him," and then when it's like the big guy, he's like, "Oh, lean in. I need to tell you something you didn't know. Kill him." Oh, I already knew that. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Goes up, shakes him. I wish he had a
what a
little
good way
bit
of
more.
killing him.
He was almost as big of a jobber as Captain Love.
Oh, okay, be fair to Captain Love. At least he has a body count, unlike,
Captain Love does have a body count.
True.
And not to say, like, the quips in this movie are so good. From the training scene of you would have fought him very bravely and died very quickly, my friend. Or with
He was
Captain
trained
Love,
to fight.
he's like,
You seem trained to drink.
It's funny. It's the second time I've shot this man when he's flying through the air.
I think my favorite one is it's right after Captain Love shoots Three Finger Jack out of the air. And Montero just turns the other Dons because Three Finger Jack insulted them. And he just repeats his insult. He's like, Peckerwood? I love that one so much. It's just so funny. It's like such a horrible scene, too, because he's getting like murdered after being used as slave labor. But at the same time, Montero's reaction to that shooting is so priceless. It also, like, really, sells him as the smarmy asshole who you really want to see Diego get revenge on, as well as, like, for Alejandro to fight against and humiliate. And, like, speaking of the villains, by the way, being really hateable, the movie does such a good job at making the villains hateable.
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to lose my thought because that was the worst parts I was talking about. But the best parts about that fight scene, first of all, you see how crafty he is and how much you actually learn of like the agile stuff, from swinging on the ropes to being on the chandelier to the cannonballs to lighting the cannon at the end, and then realizing, oh shit, I'm about to blow everything up, and then having to get the hell out of there. But the best part is when he comes back and he's like, I did it! I'm Zorro! And obviously Don Diego has to be like, you're not Zorro. What you did there was stupid and rash and impulsive.
Yeah,
and now you're gonna fix it by learning what the more difficult part of Zorro is, and that is the selling of being the Don.
Mm-hmm. And also, I love how right before that, he tricks Alejandro into thinking there's going to be a big confrontation. Like, he's going to have to fight him, to get out of the cave alive. And he pulls out a spoon.
Draw your weapon.
Choose your weapon.
draws his sword from his horse, and then he just pulls out a spoon.
Spoon. Technically, he won that fight by disarming Alejandro by swiping his sword
He
with
did.
a spoon. Yeah, he won.
And technically, you can win with the spoon. So some of the techniques I do in the Spanish fencing, instead of having like a fencing dagger in the offhand, sometimes when I do exhibitions for fun, I actually use a spoon.
No
and you can
way.
use a spoon as an offhand to block and parry a sword. So technically, if you're fast enough and you time it right, yes, you can. You can
Do you
actually
think,
use a
do you
spoon
think a fork would be more
in a
effective?
fencing
Because it's
match.
got
Yeah.
the prongs, you can kind of lock the blade.
Oh. Oh yeah,
It'd
definitely.
be funnier
yeah.
if you used a fork.
Yeah, but you can use so many things. You can use a cup. I mean, a
Not a
plate,
knife, though.
just
A
all
knife,
kinds
Zorro
of
would be
stuff.
like, oh, well, you picked a
just to
knife,
make
time
it
to
fun.
die.
One of the things I have to say about all these fights is that there's not too much CGI in them. There's a lot of stunts. Like one of them that stands out to me was when there were the horse chase scene when he's not on Tornado. He's like
And when
on
he's,
one
like,
of the other
skiing
soldiers'
on two
horses,
of 'em?
and he like. Right, that, and also when he like jumps off the horse as it's running, and he as he's doing that, he jumps off the ground, flips, and lands on the horse backward, and he's riding the horse backwards, and then he punches out another soldier and switches to that horse and rides him forward. Those
The
stunts are not
blocking of the
CGI.
fight, the practical effects, them literally just deciding to blow up the whole set at the end of filming just to get that practical explosion of the mine.
Yeah. There's something to be said about all the hard work that goes behind all the stunts, rather than just try to cop it out and putting it as a CGI. Not to say that there's not CGI stuff in there, but you gotta admire that hard work that goes behind all those stunts.
No, I agree. I'm not gonna knock CGI since I think it's a valid form of effects, but it is a little sad to see the explosion in Legend of Zorro. Wow, it looks really scary. It's not as cool as seeing the entire set implode upon itself at
Oh,
the
yeah.
end. And
That was awesome.
it was super awesome, and I love that they did that, even though I would have loved to visit the set. But Legend of Zorro, we sadly don't have that because the explosion is CGI, which makes sense. It's basically a giant nuclear bomb.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There is a lot of charm with these real world effects, and it's aged so well. It's like I've heard a lot of people saying it's like shocking how little this movie has aged. Like it still holds up to this day when compared to its contemporaries.
To be fair, it doesn't have that many contemporaries.
True. I mean, where are you
At
going to
least in
compare it
the
with?
Zorro-
Godzilla
in
1998?
in the Zorro category, it does not have many contemporaries. In the sword fighting category, it doesn't actually have that many contemporaries.
Well, I
if
will
you
say
wanna,
this.
If you want to consider some, like, I don't know, new
I-
Star Wars movies as contemporaries.
I will say
It's a
this.
sword
Oh,
fight.
I think. Oh, I mean, yeah. But I was gonna say. I was saying that even though it's not the best Zorro movie in my opinion, it is the best quality Zorro. And people who are often thrown off by older movies they should be introduced to the franchise with this movie, like I was, and like many folks were. And
Another thing I like, before you were talking about the villains a little bit, I like how they're not afraid to immediately let you know who the villains are.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know,
It's-
obviously some Zorro movies will be like, this is the villain, but they're absolutely untouchable. These villains aren't untouchable. They're out in public eye. They have the Don's support, uneasy support, might I add.
mm-hmm.
They are, I wouldn't say they're, like, vulnerable at any time, but they're not, like, unknown. They're not like, oh,
You're not gonna have to work the whole
if you
movie
want
just to get to them.
to me, you have to find out who my employer is.
Yeah. like immediately in the beginning, Montero, he's just like, doing all of his stuff. You know, he's luring Zorro. His peers are walking up to him like, Montero, why the hell are you still here? You're gonna get murdered by Santa Ana. He's like, well, but I gotta get Zorro. And it doesn't pay off well, because then Zorro comes over and basically gives him a new birthmark. And it does show that while he's still an intimidating villain, and he very much proves why in the next scene he's in, he is far from untouchable. And in fact, if you know the ending fight and how that turns out, he's very touchable.
Oh yes, by a lot of
sounded
things.
funny. It sounded funny. Yeah, basically, Zorro villains usually, like, what happens is Zorro just humiliates them, or like, kind of
That was
just
brutal.
kills them at the end. Just quiet. Like, it's just yeah. Both of the villains' death scenes are just.
It was so brutal.
It is so brutal, and at the whole time you're watching, I'm like, yeah. That's what they deserved. And also, it was also kind of funny too, watching as as Big Jack Films point out, Captain Love getting crushed by his own paycheck. And Montero going out in the most humiliating way possible after thoroughly, after killing Zorro and, having the ultimate victory snatched from him by a simple mistake. And
Yeah.
it's very satisfying that he doesn't even get to enjoy his victory over Zorro, because he gets punished for it within seconds. And it's very satisfying to see. And Captain Love, obviously, the whole movie's building up to this one scene of him getting stabbed through the gut, and with the sword that he beheads Alejandro's brother with, and then getting crushed by a giant box of gold. It's very satisfying. And
It was also very funny.
it is very funny too, yeah. I will say this though, that even though the villains are great, the problem is the sergeant isn't. He's kind of forgettable. Also, he's not fat, which is, I mean, why even bother? Like,
An instant downgrade.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, like, Sergeant Mendoza in the 90s show, he wasn't, like, really fat.
It's fixable, too.
But,
it's
like,
fixable. All they had to do was have, like, Captain Love or Montero or somebody just, like, talk to Garcia and be like, Garcia, you let him get away? You can't do anything right. And people would immediately realize, oh, this is the Sergeant character. That's where he is. I didn't notice him from the horse scene before, and then in the chase scene a little bit afterwards, but that's him right there.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure he has like 3 lines of dialogue, and also he's never interacts with his boss. Also, I'm pretty sure he's not even aligned with the Independent Republic of California, which is the potential nation that Montero wants to create. He's literally just a random nondescript Mexican soldier. Like, he's not even related to the villains in any way. He's just there. He's just there. And, like, here's the thing. Like, you don't even have to do it, because there's already kind of a henchman character with Captain Love. And say what you will about Captain Love, you've teased the character quite a bit, but he fills the role of the intimidating second in command that Montero has. But anyways, I think that's enough of talking about the villains.
So I was gonna add one more thing to it.
Okay, feel free.
To me, Dr. Love, Dr. Love,
Captain Love.
Yeah.
Well, you see, he has a PhD in
brining.
Killing.
So, oh god, I just got your joke, Peen.
But, what were you gonna say?
He reminds me a lot of the main villain to the Outlaw Josie Wales.
I have not seen that movie, so
Ah,
would you be able to tell me?
he's a Union general who kills Clint Eastwood's entire family
Oh, I think I
by
saw in a
burning
Toon Shay.
down. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
saw in a
that.
Toon
Yeah,
Shay video. Oh, that guy. All right, I see. All right, that makes sense. That does make
along with
sense.
the
Both of them are.
uniform, it's also a very similar thing that he did to the main
Oh,
character.
oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I can see that. We've talked quite a bit about the villains. I'm wrapping up that part.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and there was one more thing I wanted to talk about with the Mask of Zorro, and it's tone balancing. Cause the movie starts off pretty positively, but then it immediately hits you with a cold dose of reality throughout a lot of the movie. It has such an oppressive atmosphere that you usually only see right at the beginning before Diego becomes Zorro. But this oppressive atmosphere comes from the fact that Diego's whole life is not only robbed from him, but the people's champion has been robbed from them, and it basically allows the burgeoning Mexican Empire to basically do similar stuff to what the Spanish Empire did to them, and now they have no champion to protect them. Don't get me wrong, Joaquin and Alejandro Murrieta, they do manage to do some good while they were in that little band of rogues with Three Finger Jack, but it's nothing compared to what Zorro could do in the level of inspiring everyone, of rallying people together, and showing everyone that these dictators, these tyrants, authoritarians, they do not have the ability to bully them anymore. And I think when Alejandro becomes Zorro, that's when things start to look up. Like, the movie's tone lightens up so much the second that Diego and Alejandro meet, because it's showing that when Zorro is gone from California, California becomes a horrible, dark place. That in many of this state's worst memories historically, it is because Zorro wasn't there to protect the people from the abuses. And
If only
I know
Zorro could have stopped those wildfires.
no, natural disasters, that's something you can't really control. Well, except for the gender reveal
Except for-
parties, you could have controlled those. But like when it comes to the amount of horrible dictators and oppression and killings that you see throughout not just the Mask of Zorro but the Zorros before, and from a historical context, when Diego is taken away from the people and his family and everything else, the quality of life instantly dips, like, for the next 20 years until Alejandro rises as the new Zorro. And I think it's so fitting with the story's message that there must always, always be a Zorro, and that anyone can be Zorro. That the second that Alejandro dons the outfit and the mask, he instantly changes the world around him for the better, completely. And that's all I had to really say about that. Anything else anyone would want to say about the Mask of Zorro before we move on to the
yes.
last topic? Oh, say
That one scene.
there's a lot of
You're
that
gonna
one
need to be
scenes.
a little more specific.
How did they not see the platoon of guys in his house?
Oh yes, oh yes, I
I think
remember. I
that's
was watching the
hilarious.
movie with you.
How did he not find the what?
Okay, so I was talking with this with Marsden earlier, but when he saw the movie for the first time, because I have everyone watch the, Zorro movies and stuff before we talk about them. But he noticed when Diego and Esperanza were kissing, and they were talking about, oh, I'm not going to be Zorro anymore. The Spaniards have gone home. We're free. And they immediately turn over, and there's a whole platoon of Spanish soldiers with Montero at the front doing a funny pose.
They're all just looking at him.
Yeah, and Marsden was wondering, how did they manage to sneak up on Diego and Esperanza? And the only answer I really have is a they walked quietly. I don't know. It's a movie. It's a movie.
But it's hilarious.
It is funny in hindsight, yes.
I'm not nitpicking it because I just think it's funny that they got that
yeah.
close without anyone noticing.
A similar thing does happen in Joaquin's death scene when Captain Love first appears. So it's kind of a, it's like poetry. It rhymes. The villains appearing out of nowhere to ruin the characters' lives.
Oh.
Oh my god, there's so many things about this movie that I don't catch until later, and how it rhymes with itself and other Zorro movies. It kind of blows my mind. But we're gonna call off the Mask of Zorro discussion here. We've talked about it a lot, and I'm gonna be moving on to the next and last topic. It's an opinion for everyone to share. What is your opinion on Zorro imposter subplots?
Best subplots of all time.
All right, fair enough. We got your opinion on it. I want to hear about Quantum's opinion on it.
I think is great, because I think it's a great way to introduce conflict. To you have this hero, but you want to have it. Some on the shows and things like that. They'll hire an imposter to slander him, to make him look like he's not the hero that he is. You could see that in many things, even in today, and things like that. So I think that they're great to introduce conflict, but I also think that they're great for comic relief. I know, like in the soap opera, Zorro, actually gets shot in the back, and he falls down, hits his head, and loses his memory. And the villains there, the bad guys are trying to slander him. So they have this guy dressed up like Zorro go around town, and they bully him into being an imposter. And he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't know, you're not going to shoot me, and the soldiers are not going to shoot me and think I'm the real deal. And they're like, oh no, you're good, trust us. I'll tell the soldiers not to do it. And Zorro wakes up and trying to he doesn't have his whole memory, but he finds the Zorro costume that he has, the real Zorro, and he puts on half of his costume and goes just around town, just, doing funny stuff, and he runs into the imposter, and they fight each other, and then they start fighting the soldiers, and then the soldiers think that the imposter, since he's got the full suit, is the real deal, so he actually gets shot in the rear. And so I think it's good for comic relief, but it's also great for conflict and trying to take down that symbol, trying to take down that symbol of freedom from oppression. That's what Zorro is, because we talked about he's not just a man, right? It's a symbol. There's a meaning behind it, and to have an imposter try to attack at that, you're having a person now fighting against an ideology, a symbol, not just another person. So I think Zorro imposters, they got it cut out for them. And I think they're great to include and give Zorro a good conflict.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's a funny, novel plot, but I don't think it's anything except cheesy, to be honest with you. I've never seen like a Zorro imposter plot that was ever taken at face value, where like they permanently succeed in at least reducing the trust in Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be an interesting idea,
Or it actually has an effect on the people.
Like, they run this whole, campaign, and even though they find out, oh, there were two Zorros, people are still, uneasy at the end, which Zorro was doing the good, which Zorro was doing the bad. We really actually don't know, and there haven't been too many patterns. Maybe because Zorro, maybe this is an early episode in a cartoon.
Yeah.
Say, even episode 5, you could do it then, and have it sort of be this first real hurdle of the mask, nobody knowing who I am, can work against me, and I have to be careful of that. I think it's a good premise
Zorro
if you want to take it somewhere, but honestly, I just think it's funny. It's comic.
Yeah. I think I have kind of a problem with it, not because of the concept. The concept is, it's pretty serviceable. I think it's the execution that bothers me. I did not know about the imposter subplot with La Espada de la Rosa. It sounds super interesting, and I can't wait to translate that with you. But like a lot of the Zorro imposter plots I've seen, it's usually the villain runs out of ideas on how to capture Zorro. And he's like, what if I just got a guy to dress up as Zorro and commit crimes in my name? Alright, that's easy. Now I gotta pick someone. And he usually picks someone who doesn't resemble Don Diego in the slightest. Like a guy with a different weight, with a different, like, with a different tan.
A short, fat, squat Italian guy who was going around like, hey, I'm Zorro.
A guy
I'm
with a different mustache.
in your butt.
And then
the real Zorro comes up and he's like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Hey, calm down.
It's like the peons, and they just fall for this every time. They're just like, how could Zorro do this, even though he looks different, he sounds different, he has a different thing, he has all these tells and stuff.
How could Zorro do such a thing, and also age 40 years?
Mm-hmm. And also, like, the weird thing, too, is they always have the exact same outfit the normal Zorro has. Like, could you not have the villains try and assemble their own ripoff of the Zorro outfit and try and pass it as real?
Although
the comic does it. The
my
2007
favorite,
comic does
I wouldn't even call this an imposter plot, but I love the shenanigans with, like, the outfit of Zorro in 1975, especially, like, with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, I think it's like, I don't think it was a scarecrow, but like they have the outfit like in the field, and the priest is basically just trolling the entire army.
Don't shoot, it's a child!
I love that. That is hilarious. Also, not to mention the whole shenanigans with like Zorro being spotted. And it's like, don't you see? It's supposed to be Don Diego, and Don Diego's right there. It's like, hey, Colonel, I caught a big fish.
Yeah, that's such a good scene.
Oh, true. If there's any Zorro imposter plot I unironically really enjoyed, is the one from Generation Z, but mostly just because it's so funny. Because instead of just getting one guy who doesn't resemble Zorro at all...
They get more than one, don't they? Get like three?
They hire a whole...
entourage. They hire an entourage
carnival troupe worth of people. And there's just Zorros everywhere committing, like, the pettiest of crimes.
There's more than one in one shot.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm gonna get this Zorro to push someone out of the way. I'm gonna get this Zorro to shoplift. I'm gonna get this Zorro to sit down on a seat
spree
in front of a pregnant woman.
Yeah. Well, to sort of wrap this up, I'm gonna say I agree with you that I think Zorro imposter plots can be really good. I just think that so far they're just made to be funny, and I don't think anyone's gonna really take anything here to heart and be like, "Oh yeah, we could do this really cool like." Dark, gritty Zorro imposter plot. No, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
First and foremost, a Zorro imposter plot needs to be funny. The whole point is that it creates like a temporary identity crisis that shows not only like the villain's motivation of trying to like manipulate feeble-minded people and like, oh wait, these people are kind of stupid and they think that's the real Zorro. We know it's not the real Zorro, but if we were there, maybe we'd like in the moment be like, oh shit, they're robbing a bank. That's Zorro right there. He's wearing the mask. He has the cape. I can't get that. I can't find it on eBay, so that has to be the real Zorro. It doesn't help that like that is in like the future. It's in Generation Z where like they have all this technology. You don't think somebody could just be walking around as Zorro? They could very well be.
In fact, in the beginning of the episode, there are 3 kids dressed up as Zorro for Halloween that were egging the Mayor Martinez's house. That's how he gets the idea.
I forgot about that. That's funny.
They could cosplay Zorro.
Yeah.
You know something interesting. I don't know if you guys knew this, but in the New World Zorro, they have an imposter episode.
Yeah.
I think it's Double Entendre, and I don't know if you guys knew it or not. But the actor who plays the imposter, Ignacio Carreño, he actually was Duncan Regier's stunt double during the series. I don't know if you guys knew that. And then also in the Disney imposter episode, I think it's called Double Trouble. The guy who plays the imposter there, I think it was Martinez, he had originally auditioned for the
He was one of like 50-something people who auditioned,
Yeah, I don't know if you guys knew that.
It certainly saves time.
I think there was...
True. Like, oh yeah, it's just like... I don't know. It's a trope that I
Is
don't
there more you
think
could
has
really
been done to its
elaborate on?
full-
It's not
Yeah,
that complex.
this is I was just gonna say it's really a trope that hasn't been done to its full potential yet, and that's pretty much all I'm gonna say of it. And well, I think that's pretty much all that we have for today, folks. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you coming on board with us for the podcast. I really appreciate it, Quantum. Thank you
Sorry
so
to take
much.
so much of your time, Quantum.
No, you're very welcome.
And
I quite enjoyed it. Thank you.
obviously, for people who want to like check out more of you and what you do, see firsthand, you want any plugs or anything?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I actually post my Zorro cosplays on my Facebook page. I don't have a really big following just because I'm just kind of starting out, but a lot of my stuff is there. All these are homages to my favorite Zorros and other heroes. But I do have a Facebook page. It's hobby HOBBY _cause CAUSE _cosplay. So hobby _cause _cosplay. And I post all my stuff there if you want to check out my suits or get a better look at them. I post some stuff on the Discord too, but
as
I don't always
Jack
going to
said,
post a lot of
he'll
things.
have one or two of your things on the title thing
Yeah,
of this
and
podcast, so
the
that
description
people
as well.
get a little hint, a little sample of your talent. So, Hobby Cosplay QuantumEagle1, thank you so much for being here. We loved having you on this podcast.
I really did.
For
I can't wait
me
to
personally, for a
I
few
can't wait to
reasons,
translate.
you you're not afraid to jump in when you really like a subject and you want to contribute to it, but also very few technical difficulties. I know sometimes people come on here with technical difficulties, love them to death, all phenomenal people. Makes things easy for us because none of us are professional editors.
Yeah.
Sure. No, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for your interest in what I do, and hopefully we can inspire other cosplayers out there to try it out and do their version and go out and do some good in their community as well. So hopefully we inspired somebody today.
It was great.
But thank you.
It was great talking to you, my man.
Me.
I hope to see you around sometime so I can translate Zorro La Espada de la Rosa with you.
And for everybody who's been listening and sticking around for this long, you have no idea how much it means to Jack specifically, but also me and Peyton and everybody else who we've had as regulars on this show. We definitely like to thank you for listening to this podcast in any regard, because this is obviously a passion project for us. We all very much enjoy this franchise and enjoy sharing it with you. And hopefully next week or so, and definitely more over the summer, you're going to get more episodes from us. We're going to try to, because some of the people who work on this, still in college, some of them, have jobs, some of them, and we're going to try to maybe get to more like a regular scheduled program the longer this goes on. But once again, thank you to everyone who's been listening.
Exactly. Have a good day, everyone. This has been Jack Clock, and we're all signing off from the we're signing off from the cast of Zorro. Anyways, see you guys later. Adios.
Adios, everyone.
Adios.